Have our correspondent Hamda Salute here in the studio. So, Hamda, let's begin with this strike in Hodeidah. What more do we know?
Well, we do know that there was some unusual activity in the skies over Eilat. That's Israel's southernmost city. There were Israeli Air Force jets flying in the direction of the Red Sea toward Yemen. Now, what we also know is that there has been no response from the Israelis, but some anonymous American officials speaking to Israeli media have said that this was in fact conducted by the Israelis. And it comes after Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, had vowed that there would be a retaliation after what had happened in Tel Aviv the other night. And all of this comes as there's been these new fronts that have been opening in Israel's war. You have, of course, the war on Gaza in the south, the northern front in Lebanon, and then also in the south here, the Houthis have been constantly attacking the southernmost city of Eilat, sending missiles, sending drones, and there have been several impacts. There have been people who've been injured, and it's an area where sometimes Israel's defense array doesn't exactly get it right. This is usually something that's supposed to be ironclad, but there have been a lot of hits in Eilat as a result of the Houthis sending in these missiles and drones.
Hamda, take us back to the Houthi strike on Friday. What was unusual about this strike from previous strikes by the Houthis was the distance the drone traveled. This was the first time it managed to hit Tel Aviv, which is a distance of, I believe, 2,000 kilometers or so, according to one estimate, all the way from Yemen to Tel Aviv. What does that tell us?
This is the longest distance the Houthis have, in fact, been able to launch a drone. And what's more interesting is that Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system and aerial defense array didn't catch it. There were no alarms that were set off. There were no red alerts in the area. And in fact, the video quite clearly shows it flying over the sea into Tel Aviv and making impact quite immediately, killing at least one person, injuring 10 others. And again, there were several Israeli officials who held assessments all throughout the day on Friday, who said that there would be some sort of retaliation. Israel will be responding at a time and place of their choice. And it's something we typically hear from the Israelis. Remember, back in March, when there was continuous Houthi activity in the sea where they were seizing these ships, and the Americans had said that they weren't going to stand for it. And then back in March, the Americans did, in fact, with a coalition of partners, attack several targets inside of Yemen. And the Israelis themselves have said that they are not going to leave that front wide open. And in fact, it's the only one they had not yet responded. They've responded in Lebanon. We see what's been going on in Gaza, but the Israelis themselves had never themselves responded in Yemen until this point.
So we've had this response that the Israelis had warned off. I guess the question now is, for observers and those who will be watching this very closely, is what happened next? How much wider can this escalate?
Well, look, this is a situation that's been spiraling out of control. The war on Gaza entering its 10th month. The situation on Israel's northern border with Lebanon only increasing. And the situation in Israel's southernmost city, Eilat, we've seen a lot of Houthi activity there, a lot of missiles, a lot of drones. And the head of the army, Israel's defense minister, both of them have said that they have not yet opened up a front of their own there. While the front has been opened against them, they have not responded. So it's a little bit tough to say exactly what's going to happen. Remember, there's going to be a lot of international pressure on Israel. Their military is already stretched thin because of the reservists who are operating in both the north and southern parts of the country. If the Air Force is going to have to be additionally deployed to more parts of the Middle East, like Yemen, it's a little bit tough to say how exactly they're going to manage that when they're looking still to recruit more people for the army. So it's a lot of pressure on the Israelis as now yet another front has opened in this war.
OK, many thanks for that. Hamda Salute, our correspondent here in the studio.